Okay, so although it might seem like Clive Waring has no memories, actually, if we think about some of the things that he can show he can do within that clip, there's evidence that there are some memories there. Now, specifically at the start is the primary example of this, and the fact that we see him playing the piano. Playing the piano will, of course, require memory. You need to be able to remember which keys which make which notes refer to in which song, what the patterns of those songs are. All of that will be utilising memory, and hopefully you're already drawing the links between what type of memory that is and the types of long-term memory we looked at earlier. We also see the fact that he can move around and that he's got that ability to show those different movement skills, and he's got the ability to communicate and use language and know what words mean in reference to certain things. And they just get a bit muddled at times, but a lot of that communication is clear. It's just not being informed by anything. So he does have knowledge of how to speak, and he can recognise important people. He does know who his wife is. He does recognise, his wife when she comes in. He's not clear about other details, such as how long it's been since he last saw her, but he certainly knows that that's who she is, okay? Now, what we can therefore say here is that the majority of the memories that he has intact are those procedural memories, and those to do with those movement, action, skills, and playing the piano, as I say, is a really important one to try and remember. Of course, there are lots of examples here, though, where Clive is struggling to remember things. And it's a really sad clip, I think, in that sense, that he's not able to remember some really important details of his life, of his children, and what things have happened. And we see that in a very short-term sense, that from one sentence to another, he can not keep intact that information that he's got. Now, there is a little bit of link here between whether he's got short-term, long-term memory, but he's certainly lacking that memory of key knowledge of dates and times of events, knowledge of past events, and knowledge of names and details of really important people to his life. So those memories have gone. And therefore, we can say that a lot of the memories that he can't recall are those episodic and semantic memories. And I'd say episodic particularly here are completely lacking. He cannot remember those events of things that have happened. So how does that relate back to our types of long-term memory? Well, hopefully you can see here from the link that suggests to us that procedural memories are being dealt with differently in the brain to those semantic and episodic memories. That could be that they're stored in a completely different place. So in Clive's sense, when that illness he's got is affecting his memory, it's affecting some of the memory centres, but others that are in a different location aren't being affected in the same way, or that they are more vulnerable to certain memory conditions than others. Either way, it does support the fact that these memory stores are different, and that's the theory that we're looking at here. So that's how you can use Clive Waring effectively. The second area of evidence we can use for this types of memory theory is the use of brain scans. Now, there is a particular type of brain scan called PET scans that we'll look at in the biopsychology unit that's later on in this GCSE. However, for the time being, we really can just use some quite simple understanding of the fact that there are different areas of the brain, and those different areas appear to be more active when we're processing different types of memories. So, for example, when individuals are asked to do procedural-based tasks that would require the recall of procedural memories, the motor area of the brain seems to be more active. Whereas when we're giving people things such as episodic and semantic memory tasks, where they have to remember key dates in their life or key pieces of information about the world, it seems to be that prefrontal area that's active. And actually, even within that prefrontal area, episodic memories seem to stimulate a different area to semantic memories. And this, again, provides us with further evidence that there are different types of memory because they actually seem to be stored in different regions of the brain. So when we're looking at these different evidence studies, it's really useful to go back to our understanding of methods of research and try and use that to help understand different problems or different strengths there are with those pieces of research. So what I want you to do is have a think about and think back to, in this case, the work we did before Christmas on these methods. What limitations can you remember that case study evidence has? Even better, can you apply that to what might be an issue with using Clive Waring as support for the types of memory theory? We didn't look at brain scans specifically, but I want you to think about that type of evidence and what benefits you can think of that might be there over other methods that we've looked at in research. Okay, so let's look through those and let's see how what you've come up with compare with some of the things that I'm going to share with you now. So issues with case studies always come back to the fact that we're just looking at one person, and that one person tends to be either unique or very different to the rest of the people in the population. Now, because of that, and because we're trying to apply someone who's very different to everybody else, it can be quite difficult to generalize findings. And by that, I mean use their experience to say that this would be an experience that everybody would have. Now, in the case of the Clive Waring research, what we're saying here is that we can't be sure that the way Clive Waring's brain has managing information is the same that everyone else's brain might be. And we'd only truly find that out if we were able to apply a brain condition to everybody in the same way that Clive Waring had and see whether their end result of what occurred with their memory loss would be the same. So this is seen as a weakness, and it's a really good way of elaborating your evaluation to say that, however, although we've got this research support, there is this problem with it. In terms of our strengths of brain scans, well, hopefully the picture on the right gives you a little bit of a sense of the fact that this type of research allows us to directly observe what we're suggesting is going on with the individual. We're not interpreting it. We're not saying we think it's this. We can see in front of us the active areas of the brain, and therefore this type of research allows for direct measurement. Now, as a science, psychology really loves research that has this direct observable measurement. And the takeaway here is that it's a really highly scientific method of investigation. So any research that has this feature can be seen as a really highly regarded, highly scientific piece of evidence that can be supported in this way. Right, we've come to the end of this particular task. Like all the other topics that we'll cover as part of the memory unit, if you look in the textbook, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a button that looks like the one you can see on the screen now. If you click that, that will bring up some multiple choice Q quizzes. And what I want you to do is check your understanding of what we've covered in today's lesson by going through those multiple choice questions. If you do get any questions wrong, then click back on them. You can see what the correct answer was, and you can use that as a way of making some further notes on bits that you might just need a little bit more help on as we've gone through. The final task is updating your PLC. We've now covered this different types of memory topic. So you can complete RAG1 column, which is that after learning assessment of how confident you feel with this topic straight after we've completed the lesson. If you've not updated the other topics that we've covered so far that you can see in green in this table, then you can also update this as you're doing this task. But that brings the end of this video. As I said right at the start, any questions or any problems, then please do ask.